By the way, how annoying is The View getting? God, they're insufferable, that lot, aren't they?
Piers Morgan is at it again, and this time he's got The View in his crosshairs. Morgan has sparked fresh debate by accusing its hosts of hypocrisy, and not only that, he has been calling out for the show to be canceled. And this is not a baseless accusation.
And it's this permanently offended, snowflakey, cancel culture mob who descend like a pack of hornets on anything they can get themselves into.
See, the co-host Sunny Hostin wants Tucker Carlson off the air for his comments about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
For most partisan participants, fighting with the enemy is a win. Civil disagreements or hearing the other side out is bad for business. Exhibit A is the ongoing dust-up between Tucker Carlson and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
But what exactly did Tucker say? Well, for starters, he mocked AOC for being scared during the January 6th Capitol riot, basically making fun of her concerns about potential violence. Yeah, because being in a building under attack is apparently hilarious to him. He also questioned her identity as a woman of color, suggesting she wasn't being genuine about it. That one sparked a whole other debate.
There is no place on earth outside of American colleges and newsrooms where Sandy Cortez would be recognized as a, quote, woman of color, because she's not. She's a rich, entitled white lady.
Obviously, these comments didn't sit well with a lot of people, including Hostin, who's been vocal about how AOC is unfairly targeted by conservatives. She sees it as part of a bigger effort to tear down progressive voices. But here's what Morgan sees, and I believe is true. The View itself has a long history of making controversial remarks, whether it's Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, or past panelists like Rosie O'Donnell. The View, all of them have a long history of making controversial remarks that spark outrage. Joy Behar, for example, she once mocked Mike Pence's Christian faith, suggesting that hearing Jesus speak was a sign of mental illness.
Well, who is she to judge how often our vice president should speak to his Lord and Savior? Who is she to mock anyone for their faith? These people are really, really amazing to me because they preach day in and day out about tolerance and love. Tolerance and love for everyone, right, except conservative Christians. And then they can mock you and it's funny and you're something that they can use for their jokes around the table and they can all cackle about it. It's really disgusting, not surprising, but disgusting.
That didn't end well, and Whoopi Goldberg faced backlash and a suspension after claiming the Holocaust wasn't about race. Sunny Hostin has compared white suburban women voting Republican to roaches voting for Raid. Even former co-host Raven Simone stirred controversy by saying she wouldn't hire someone with a ghetto name. The show is all about controversies and free speech. So now when Morgan called out the show once more, it's once again back in the headlines.
Trying to tell us all how to think, how to act, how to laugh, what to find funny, what statues to revere, what parts of history are acceptable, what parts aren't, and so on. And I think we're all just sick and tired of it. You know, whether you're in New York, whether you're in London, whether you're in Sydney.
In a tweet, Morgan addressed Hostin directly, stating, if that Sunny Hostin wants Tucker Carlson's show canceled for his comments about AOC, then shouldn't At The View be canceled for all the vile abuse they've hurled at me and many others? His tweet highlighted what he sees as a double standard in Hostin's approach to controversial speech. He has called the show a Trump-loathing joke and an echo chamber rather than meaningful debate before, and this time, his latest clash with the show was sparked by his New York Post column. He slammed the show for constantly attacking conservatives while protecting their own. And then Sunny Hostin criticized Nikki Haley for using a nickname instead of her real first name. It's ironic considering Sunny isn't her real name either. Morgan was quick to call her out because of this as well. Her real name is Asuncion Cummings Hostin. That came out as a shock to me as well because, well, I actually thought her name was Sunny. Anyway, when one dirty thing comes up, so do the others. And Morgan went straight for it, calling her out on her past deeds. Another one of her controversial takes that Morgan mentioned is her past comment about white Republican women being cockroaches. Sunny tried to backtrack, saying, actually, I didn't. I said they were acting like cockroaches, but let's be honest, that's not much of a difference.
That white Republican suburban women are now going to vote Republican.
Why?
It's almost like roaches voting for Raid, right?
I say The View loves calling for accountability when it suits them, but do they ever apply that same energy to themselves? Not so much. Morgan's criticism of The View is not new. He has had a contentious relationship with The View over the years, marked by several public disagreements. He reminded everyone of the time she defended Rosie O'Donnell after she made nasty comments about Donald Trump Jr. Back then, Sunny didn't think Rosie needed to apologize, but now she wants Tucker Carlson canceled for criticizing AOC. Morgan wasted no time calling out what he saw as a blatant double standard. He tweeted, Sunny Hostin defended Rosie O'Donnell's vile abuse of Don Jr., but wants Tucker Carlson canceled for criticizing AOC. You can't have it both ways at Sunny. See, if you're going to demand accountability from one side, you better hold your own to the same standard. Otherwise, it just looks like picking and choosing based on political bias. And if there's one thing Morgan can't stand, it's hypocrisy. Now, you and I both know that whenever someone gets called out on The View, the co-hosts have each other's backs, and this time, it was no different. Sunny Hostin immediately defended herself, saying her words were taken out of context. Sound familiar? It's always the go-to excuse when things get heated, but Piers wasn't the only one calling her out. People online were already talking. Some of you were nodding along with him, saying, if Sunny wants Tucker canceled, then she should cancel The View too, or calling it a necessary reality check and saying Piers was just pointing out the obvious. But it wasn't all black. Some people were against this accusation. Someone even tweeted, Piers Morgan needs to take a seat. He's always whining about something. And then, of course, Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg jumped in. You could see it coming a mile away. They tried to shift the conversation, making sure Sunny didn't take too much heat. But Morgan had his own backup support. Alyssa Farah Griffin, the former Trump staffer, wasn't as quick to dismiss Piers' points. She kind of hesitated, like she knew he wasn't completely wrong, but she still had to back her co-hosts. But this also makes me think that Piers Morgan is always complaining about cancel culture, and now he wants The View canceled. Isn't that the same thing? But then there's also this, that Piers has built his brand on being anti-cancel culture, calling out what he sees as an unfair silencing of voices, especially conservative ones. He's not demanding actual censorship. He's pointing out what he sees as a double standard. Of course, critics see this differently. To them, Piers is contradicting himself. They argue that by calling for The View to be shut down, he's engaging in the same cancel culture tactics he claims to despise. After all, you can't say you're against canceling culture except when it benefits you, right? One thing we haven't really talked about is why The View keeps finding itself in these situations. It's practically a routine at this point. Think about it. When the show first started, it was all about different women from different backgrounds having real discussions. It wasn't always pretty, but it felt authentic. Now, it's a predictable cycle. They say something controversial, someone like Piers Morgan calls them out, social media explodes, and then they move on like nothing happened. And rinse and repeat. I don't think people tune in expecting an honest, balanced debate. They're tuning in for the spectacle. But the real question for you is not about Piers Morgan versus The View. It's that should shows like The View actually encourage real debate, or is it just entertainment disguised as discussion? Because when a conservative guest walks onto that set, it often feels like they're walking into an ambush. The View claims to represent different perspectives, but how often do we actually see a fair, balanced conversation? Let me know in the comments what you think. Until next time.